there was a hearkening for him.
All right, I'm dimming the lights. Here we go.
Thank you all.
It's such a good word.
After years and years of unbearable pain, it would be great to witness simplicity and relief on the faces of dear friends who are not dead yet. Proud nations begin to grasp what it means to lose fast in devastating ways without any help. I have seen, you have seen. Maybe not every sacrifice is in vain. Maybe we go through the pain to cleanse from the sin of brush judgmentalism, primarily. When lives of others are threatened, we begin to be whom we are indeed. I have given away what I could never replace. I have given myself in devoted, artistic ways. It will be appreciated later. We give gifts that matter to those who think deeply, perpetually. Authenticity is to seek objectivism. Who knows what you're going through, maybe also changing, maybe learning to love interaction, not for its content. Every human remaining rejection. I was not who you thought I was. You are now becoming whom you were supposed to be. Creativity is a Milky Way bridge. Oh, who is genuine in a spacesuit? Real people in piles. Beneath, struggling to breathe. Inspire. Inspire.
All right, spotlight on.
Hello everyone, and thank you so much for coming here. It means a lot to see all of you. And so this fundraiser and a concert around it is made for raising some money to help Russian poets and artists. It's 3 people mainly who recently were arrested for reading anti-war poetry, and one of them is a close friend of somebody I grew up with. So I felt very personally touched by it, and I figured I could do something for it. And we also have a very special guest today with us, Lana, and I'm gonna let her start with her poetry first, and after that, Alex and I'm gonna read the poem that this person was arrested for, in both languages, in English and Russian, and then we're gonna continue with just general anti-war pieces, and just to kind of, I guess, to ground this this concert in recent events. About 2 or 3 days ago, Russia annexed another 4 regions in Ukraine, and also about 2 weeks before that, Russia announced partial mobilization, which means people who have served in the army before are now being drafted and sent to fight in Ukraine. Things are just getting really bad every day. But I think that we can do at least something about it, and I think it's such a nice thing to see all of you guys and see your involvement and support. So thank you. Now I'm gonna, yes, we have a tip jar right here, and we have a Venmo account you can also donate to. And all that money is gonna go directly to these 3 people I'm talking about. Everything is very appreciated. So now I'm gonna give Lana the spotlight, and yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Valerie.
Thank you so much, Valerie.
Thank you so much. My name is Lana. I would like to read something, and I would like you to all take it in and think about it. It's a quote by Viktor Suvorov. He's also Vladimir Bogdanovich Rizun. He's a Soviet Union, Russian, Ukrainian historian, and that's what he said. A disgusting, vile criminal can kill a person, or 10 people, or 100. But a criminal never kills people by the millions. Millions are killed only by those who consider themselves kind. Robespierre's are not made from criminals, but from the kindest, most humane. And the guillotine was invented not by criminals, but by humanists. The most monstrous crimes in the history of mankind were committed by people who did not drink vodka, did not smoke, did not cheat on their wives, and fed squirrels from the palm of their hand. I appreciate everybody who considers themselves an artist. I appreciate everybody who is thinking outside of the mainstream agenda. We need to support each other and continue supporting each other in that, because that is what I believe saves this world day after day after day. Paint the narcissism into charity. Dress the arrogance into flowers. What would have cost you to stop for a moment, to listen, and then to decline it? Dreams are dreams. They are constant, stubborn, persistent, and lively. It's the childhood memories that have proven to be non-viable. It's the tenderness and the safety. It's the times in a car under moonlight. It's the precious and sacred visits of those that are totally gone now. It's the places that never existed. It's the times that I traveled to find them. It's the cities that I built from the shrapnel shards thrown at me while I was in recovery. It's the cruelty of the silent, turned to mercy by constant sounding. It's the enemies cheering loudly for the friends that will never discover me. Transcribe heartlessness into history. Portray snobbery as a virtue. Do not bury me. Oh, leave me shivering like a scarf of humanity on a mountain. Blue and yellow. Blue and yellow was always our theme. Blue and yellow, but ended so shallow. That which I thought was deep. As I see how they all succeed, I shed tears for your choices, senseless and fixed. But the love isn't branding nor symbols. It's a form of a focused presence through the perils of all that stigma. It's the head against metal curtains, protecting all energy sources, all that sibilance that gets triggered by the brilliance of simple courage. Authenticity is a genius of someone taking a responsibility. What is it now, my dear? No excuses for senseless behavior, politics, societal acceptance, and my poetry on every building, every window a fish tank of culture, hidden violence in every sentence, and the naysayers suddenly silenced, quitters, face in the dirt, unuttered. Monuments to the heinous massacres bombed by the pro-life doctors. What a bunch of illogical moves by your Olympic torch without rules. Any moment is now, not finally. Every day I wake up from a dream into my own reality. Every time it's a fight or a flight. Of the bruised and concussioned mind, every rocket is a satellite to propaganda gaslighting. So I told someone at Carnegie Hall, someone who always called, I don't know who I am. Well, I guess just a volunteer for the human core values. Deep as the sky, ripe as the fields, blue and yellow was always our theme. Bait for you, heart for me. And I bet, yeah, that's right, no one knew. From Ukraine, with much care for the climate, risking lives so that Europe won't know how impossible it is to nurse cleft palate babies. I don't know if you've ever tried. It's such hopelessness. Watch children die, malnourished. This piece actually has some roots in me volunteering at an orphanage back in the day. My aunt was an educator and a volunteer, and she also worked. And I remember myself being like maybe 10, 11, 12, and I would go with her and help her out. And there were a bunch of abandoned children with different deformities. And a lot of it, as you know, had to do with the Chernobyl. I am myself a Chernobyl baby. So, and those memories kind of, they stepped through as I watched, you know, some of the people stand in 27-kilometer line trying to make sure that some savages don't go into the nuclear power plant and don't do anything that would cause the entire world to suffer through the catastrophe again. So that's what the poem was about. This one I wrote under an impression when I was watching some of the volunteers again helping refugees cross the border, and that just happens very often nowadays, whether it's Syrian refugees, Ukrainian, Russian, you know, Afghanistani. When you see a child having to leave their parents, their home, and go into a life, the amount of trauma that it gives to the entire world is impossible to understand, because that's a lot of displaced lives, and how these lives turn out and what kind of trauma it brings out to the society, to the community. So I watched that, and there was one specific photograph of a child just going into different life, and I wrote to that child. A child alone crossing border into unknown, safety from the bombs is so counterintuitive. What used to be concept of home now turned into danger of death while we rent over gasoline. How dares any parent divide any kids on their own and somebody else's? If you build fragile bubbles of peace at the price of one child's tears, would you really sleep well in your bed, in your castle? If you do, anyway, I would say you do not deserve your own children. Life has a way of coming around for those who are wary to deal with responsibilities. This is anti-war, that is sarcastic, dark humor. Bury the uniforms, but stuff the pockets with sunflower seeds. Shame is this bloodshed, deadened by greed, restocked with renewable life, our golden fields, the bread basket. This one is called Lifting Heavy. Lifting heavy the weight of the world, my kitchen table is crystal clear, so solid and empty, reflective. Like if all of the solutions poured out in the streets of Ukraine, in the blood of my people, diluted and stained bread and butter of propaganda with ransom unfathomed. All I knew when I wrote my stanzas is that life is too short and precious to dedicate it to dickhead Satan, a serpent with spinal dysfunction and a triple-coiled nuclear ego, all simple graffiti turned overnight into high-resolution masterpieces, now waking in boundless galleries. People don't have to pay for admission of their ample cynicism. It's all gone, like if curses were shattered by gravesite crosses or silver pendants. Poets are prophets of things to come. Hey, seems the worst had already happened to us. Are we still alive? I don't know what you're secretly thinking, not that I ever knew, but so spiritual extrapolating and elevated morale, I must say that the sky is the limit. The sky has prevented the fly of ideas from reaching the orbit, or otherwise she would freeze, for no purpose at all. Still, sometimes she is drawn to glass ceilings head on. Sleep, sleep, sweetie. Dreamers are the most beautiful beings, truth unbearable responsibility with a sudden beginning. Every time that I'm arching my back in an effort or in delight, I am mentally wishing good night. What if tomorrow old tulips waste their colors? What if the walls shed their art? Oh, I happen to know that the dying last thought is about...
Oh, Lana.
I can go without it. The dying's last thought is about the heartbeat of music. They've heard but could not. Every time that mind squeezes the moments, it's poetry, always this poetry. If I'm seriously wounded, the letters will burst out of the womb on the ground, and libraries would self-organize into armies of countless paragraphs and subtitles. That's how literally I have loved you, but suffered the lack of excuse. If God knew, so did Satan. He overheard me recording and couldn't handle the thoughts of more albums and destroyed whom he could, and I saved whom I found. Obviously, we will never be even in numbers. The darkness is boundless. The light is a spark of clairvoyance against reality. This poem has to do with my personal struggle as an artist, as a poet, to find understanding just like all of us are. And this is why I adore, I admire, I respect the poets specifically. I mean, all artists, but the poets for actually sometimes foreseeing things to come. And it's a gut feeling, it's maybe a revelation from somewhere. Writers, I mean, when I say poets, I mean, we're writers, those that work with the word. Those that work with the word and work with the thought. I believe we have been imparted with a specific responsibility to speak things that we know and believe. And that's exactly what we're here today for. I understand that there are powers, I call them powers, that do not want the truth spoken. And we have a calling. We have a calling to not to be afraid and not to be ashamed of how our brain processes reality and outputs that. And we must support each other for this. I'm so really thankful to Valerie and Romy and Sunrise Theater for hosting this fundraiser.
I should mention that some of Lana's spoken word poetry is available, and Lana will be splitting the profits with you might want to announce it yourself. But.
Yes, so I've produced, as an indie artist, I produced a couple of CDs. This one has to do with when the COVID hit and we were all struggling with not even being able to assemble, and it has some of the the path of subconscious and self-realization, and I've had some feedback that people thought that it was helpful to them to self-realize. It's called Something Shifted, and I highly recommend that. And then there was another CD that I produced. This is altogether anti-war. It's called Census 2020, and it's talking about the personal war that each of us as an artist, we sort of read that, and sometimes we come across. It's so interesting to me, why are they so afraid of people who think and speak? We're peaceful. All we have is a pen or a typewriter or a computer. There's nothing really that we do that is, violent in nature. We are talking what we think, and they're so afraid of it that they would rather destroy us altogether and come at us with bombs and guns and police and SWAT teams and and it's hilarious to me. So this album is about that. So one album is $15, the other one is $10, and then I have a couple poetry books with me as well. So if anybody would like to purchase them, the proceeds will go toward the fundraiser. I thought we were going to split 50-50, but if somebody, I'll donate them, so whoever wants to purchase them. Right now, I would like to switch to the slides. Hopefully, there's not going to be any technological glitch. There's a poem I wrote that is in my native language, which is Ukrainian, and I'd like to read it in Ukrainian, but then I put the translation on the slides.
Okay, I'm gonna switch, do you want me to dim the light? So that
Oh, I need one light, yeah. Oh, they should be able to see the text.
Okay, I'll dim the light slightly over here.
So that's the problem of not remembering what you write, because then we get nice and papers. Yeah. Turn off the slides, and there's the form that's old. Different language. Oh, well, there's also some slides I wanted to show of the graffiti that I was referring to in my poetry. All right, so that is it. Just flip through the slides as I'm reading. Не знаю мови, окрім цієї, не можу слухати новини, коли дитинства твого стежки російські бомби з мапи стерли. Немає дому, нема вікон, і минулих спогадів провали. Ніщо в порівнянні зі страхом не витримати іспит віри. Що є життя одної дитини? Рікою крові миротворчий зрушає поля, ліса, сади, городи, моя терпляча Україна, щоб ваші європейські діти ходили в університети, як наші діти завжди мріли. Щоб ваші